Hello, thank you for tuning in to No Bruises on the Outside. I'm Roger Reynolds. In this video, this is kind of a content warning or a topic statement. I'm going to talk about domestic violence and some violence, not in any detail and really just kind of mentioning it a bit, but just wanted to give you that topic statement so that you can take care of yourself and be forewarned. So, the title, No Bruises on the Outside, what does that mean? Where does it come from? So, in order to explain no bruises on the outside, I need to explain another phrase that I came up with, which is no contact physical violence or no contact physical abuse. So, let's break that apart. No contact, meaning no human was hit or hit with an object. Physical, meaning some objects are involved. And violence, meaning, some violence is happening. And then abuse would mean that someone's present who is affected by what's happening. So no contact physical violence happens in domestic violence, can happen in abusive relationships. And what I mean by that and how that can happen is objects can be thrown, broken, punched, walls can be punched. In my family, my father was the violent one, the physically violent one, although rarely hit us. There were some spankings when I was younger, and then I learned to submit and appease to my father so that his violence didn't get turned on me. But there's a dent in a wooden door in our kitchen that goes upstairs. That's from a 1970s cut glass, heavy crystal glass ashtray being thrown at my mom. It hit the door and dented the door and is there till this day from the 70s. There was a 1970s big wooden table that was broken and a bunch of dishes on it were broken. There were holes punched in walls and other things. So no contact physical violence can happen and no one has a bruise on the outside to be seen or identified for physical abuse. The reason I think this is really important to talk about is when this kind of violence is happening in my family, I knew that at any moment it could be turned on me if I didn't submit and appease, or if I pushed or questioned or responded in a non-submitting way. So when this happens, you always know, or I always knew, like it could be turned on me. So it's a controlling behavior. It's a scary behavior. And in order, what I've mentioned, submit and appease, which I'll talk about another time in another video. It's also called the fawn response by Pete Walker. And in it, a person kind of shuts down their emotions, doesn't let them show, stays socially engaged, and works to appease the person who's currently dysregulated, acting out, being violent, or controlling. So when a person does that, it has effects on the person who's submitting. And there's the emotional disconnection or emotional dissociation. Now, it's not identity dissociation, but it is disconnecting and shutting down from connection to your emotions. And that has effects on a person that they learn to do that, and then they can do that, and they learn to do it. For myself, I learned to do it at the slightest amount of irritation or frustration or anger showing in my father, and that generalized to people that I ran into at school, at work, at parties, at get-togethers, at family functions, at public functions. If someone demonstrates a little bit of anger or a little bit of irritation or frustration, I'm on high alert, I'm hypervigilant, and I'm watching for that. And that caused me many problems in social settings and had other effects on me. So the phrase no bruises on the outside is because there are injuries, there are bruises to my brain, to my psyche, to how I view the world, to my person and my personality. So there are no bruises on the outside, but there are injuries on the inside. And they can be very severe injuries psychologically. And a lot of people don't think about this being abuse. I've been in therapy on and off from when I was 20 years old until present. And until I was almost 46 years old, No one identified that this abuse was happening because typical questions are, were you physically abused or sexually abused? And I answered no to both of those. Or like there was a little bit of physical abuse, but not much. But there was a lot of physical violence and a lot of threat of physical violence. So it took a one of the main things that caused there to be a long time to accurately diagnose me with complex PTSD is because there was so little physical contact abuse, although there was no contact physical abuse. I hope you find this helpful. I think it's an interesting idea for people to think about if they've lived in these kind of situations about how it was affecting them. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. I wish you well.